right, hello and welcome to this yoga practice. So today we're going to be focusing on a practice meant for people that suffer from SPD or Symphysis Pubic Disorder. So if you have this, you will know because it will be like pain right in the pubic symphysis, which is this joint in the front where the two sides of the pelvic bone meet. So you can see that right there. Usually caused by an imbalance in the pelvic floor muscles. So then the pelvis is slightly turned in one way, and that can cause a lot of pain. And it's very common in pregnancy because our joints get very loose, including this pubic joint. So today's class is going to be all about maintaining stability, building strength, and symmetry in the pelvis and legs. So if you have blocks, they're great to use. You don't have to, but they're handy to have. I'm just going to slide them back there. And also a strap is really handy as well. So we're going to get started on hands and knees. So just make sure that you have something to pad your knees if you need it, if you know that your knees get sore, and also your wrists. So we won't be there too long, but just be aware if your wrists start to get sore, take a break. Okay, so first I just want you to feel the bottom of your rib cage. So you're just following the ribs around all the way to the back. So you can just sort of feel where they land in your body. You can maybe dig underneath and feel the pliability of the tissue there. Okay, and then feel the pelvis. So you've got these parts of your pelvis, the crest of your pelvis, so you're going to feel that, palpate that, and you can kind of dig in there, feel all the way around to your sacrum, your tailbone, even coming around the front into the pubic bone. So you can sort of feel how your pelvis is. So now, thinking about the pelvis and the rib cage, we're going to think about when we move through these poses on our hands and knees, I want you to think about connecting pelvis and rib cage, but in a way that feels really supple and connected, not in a way that's forced. So the tucking of the tailbone or the tucking of the ribs, we don't want to do that. We don't want to brace and add more compensations to our body. So we want to still keep nice and mobile and fluid through the upper body. So you're going to come onto the hands and knees and then just feel your position here. So just settle in, notice what you feel like. So do you feel like your belly's really heavy? So if you're pregnant, this is obviously for pregnancy, not just for pregnancy, but for everybody. But if you are pregnant, feel what happens in your back when you do this. So if you have quite a curve in your back, see if there's a way that you can lessen that curve a little bit without gripping. And then from there, from that place where you feel like there's a little bit less of a curve, but you still feel supple through the front of the body, we're going to start to rock forward and back. And when you rock, make sure that you're not bracing through your upper body. So you're not rounding your upper back and bracing, because that just doesn't feel great and it defeats the purpose. So we want to be able to see how, or notice how the hips and the shoulders move when we do this. And then we're going to start to lift one arm at a time. So you're going to take a few more rocks forward and back, and then just come into a neutral position. And we're just going to start to lift one arm. So if you did not have the SPD pain in your pelvis, you could also practice lifting the leg. But for today, we're just going to lift the arm. So we're still maintaining stability through the legs and pelvis. And we're just lifting the arm up. And we can see how that might affect the low back and the rib cage. Okay, and then release that. We'll take a few more rocks forward and back. Maybe even taking it deeper than you did before. So you bring your bum closer towards your heels. And at any time, if you need to take your knees wider to accommodate your belly, you can do that. So you want to make sure that you're comfy in all the positions. And then from here, we're going to come into cat and cow. So beginning from the tailbone, we're going to turn your tailbone and lift the spine, drop the head. Let the head be really heavy. And then tailbone moves, lifts up, belly sinks, heart sinks down, gaze up. And then reverse that. So oftentimes I hear from women that the cat part feels really great, but when they get to the cow part, this one, it doesn't always feel great. So if that's the case, then I would encourage you to keep that neutral spine, not let the belly hang, and just to work on lifting and lowering the heart so that you're allowing the shoulder blades to move on the spine. So this is like a half cat-cow. So we're kind of breaking down this movement of shoulders, shoulder blades, and arms on the rib cage. And then to do the other side, we would just tip, rock the pelvis forward and back. So you're kind of just tipping forward and tipping back. So we're breaking it down so that we don't get into any pinching of the low back. So we're just allowing that pelvis to move, which is really important. And then we're going to roll back and sit on the feet. So again, if this is uncomfortable, a blanket tucked or a pillow tucked underneath the bum helps to take some tension off the knees. So from here, I'm just going to turn to face the camera. Oh, actually, not yet. We're going to roll out the spine. So we're going to, just like in cat-cow, we're going to start with the pelvis. You're going to tilt your pelvis down. So pubic bone lifts up and then round the upper spine. So the shoulder blades separate and the chin tucks down. And then reverse that and pull the shoulder blades back and gaze up. And we'll do that again. Rock the spine, shoulder blades separate, tuck the chin. Reverse that. So lots of spinal movements here and lots of movement of the pelvis and the shoulder blades. So think about how those shoulder blades can slide on your back and move together, and then they can separate and move apart. So sometimes it's even nice when you do this part to just grab onto the knees for a little bit extra leverage. And then last one, just lift the heart, shoulder blades together, and release. And then we're going to do a side bend. So a couple options here, I'm just going to face the camera so you can see what I'm doing, is to have a block. So when you do a side bend, you want to ensure that the pelvis is stable and that it's the rib cage that's moving relative to the pelvis. So you can have your hand on a block if it's comfortable, or on the ground. Top arm can come overhead if that doesn't cause any issue with your neck. And you're going to think about breathing into these side ribs. So you're making lots of space through that whole side of your body. And then you're going to do the other side. Same thing. You're going to tip the rib cage to the side and just check in here. And then reach it up and over. Breathe into those side ribs. And then relax that. Okay, last thing we're going to do on hands and knees is a twist. So you're going to come back into this neutral position. So you're not letting your belly pull your whole spine out of whack. You're in a nice neutral position, shoulder blades relaxed, pelvis is neutral. Still connected through the belly, through the area between the ribs and the pelvis, but not braced. And we're going to take one hand and reach through for the shoulder blade. And then just roll the rib cage into a twist. So all of these movements are so important for supporting our structure and keeping us mobile and strong as you move through your pregnancy. So all these planes of movement are super important to maintain and to maybe even learn for the first time. Okay, so we're going to do both sides. And just remember to keep breathing in and out through your nose. And just think about how that rib cage can roll. So the pelvis is stable. There's no side-to-side movement of the pelvis. It's just the upper body, the rib cage moving relative to the pelvis. And then we can take resting child. So knees nice and wide. Sit your bum back on a pillow or your heels, and then rest forward. Okay, so if your SPD is quite bad, you might want to skip out this next part, but we're going to make it as pelvis friendly as possible. So you want to turn your toes under, press your palms out in front of you, relax your neck, and then just start to lift the hips up. So we're coming into an upside down dog, or just down dog. And then instead of walking the feet forward, you're going to walk your hands towards your feet. And then you can just come up to standing. All right, so this is a modified sun salutation, which is really great for building stability and strength through the pelvis and legs. Also gives us a great idea of what's happening in the upper body. So as we move through this, I want you to be aware of how your rib cage, the movement of your rib cage affects your back. Movement of your rib cage affects your arm bones, and just how it feels. Okay, so moving through sun B. Feet hip width apart, at least hip width apart. And just ground in through your feet. Press your head back slightly so the back of your neck can relax. So you're not in this kind of head poking forward position. And you're just dropping into your feet. And then this is where we're going to check out how that rib cage affects the arm bones, or the arm bones affect the rib cage. So we're going to start to inhale, big breath, and then exhale, arms down. Last one. Just notice if when you lift your arms, if your rib cage wants to lift with it, and that sometimes causes a bit of jamming in the low back. So we only want to lift the arms as far as we can without the rib cage lifting, and then we're going to take a squat. So you're going to sit your hips back and down. So this is a little bit different than moving through the knees. So sure, that's a bit of a squat, but we want to get into the pelvis. So we're looking to build strength and stability through the pelvis. So we're going to sit the hips back and down, and then reach for the knees here. And then from here, the same thing as we did at the beginning, you're going to roll out the spine, lift the heart, shoulder blades together. Exhale, tuck the chin, shoulder blades apart. Inhale, shoulder blades together. Exhale, shoulder blades apart. So we're mobilizing the upper spine. Arms reach up. And then we'll go right into the next one. So sitting back. Inhale, upper spine is mobile. Even if it is not very mobile at this moment, just picture in your mind's eye how that spine can move. So usually do 2 or 3 of each movement, and then press it up, arms reach up. A little bit of a reset, drop into your feet, and then again, come into your squat. Moving the upper spine only as much as you need to feel like you're getting a little bit of mobility. A little bit of awareness. and lots of strength through the legs and bum. And then we're going to come on up, and again, reach the arms up and down. So now we're going to do heel lifts, just to keep the legs nice and strong, especially the calves and the ankles and the feet. So just keeping both feet firmly on the ground, lift up and lower. And we'll do that about 10 times. And feel free to use the wall or a chair or something to hold on to if you're not feeling very balanced. And then we're going to take it back into downward facing dog. So you're just going to bend from the pelvis, not from the back. Bend your legs, walk your hands onto your mat, and then walk the hands forward. And if you need to, you can always walk the feet back and just breathe here. And then now we're going to come onto the back. So this is where it's handy to have your block and strap handy. So laying down on your back, first thing is just to feel the pelvis so that you can tell that it's nice and stable on the ground. And then also if your head is really feeling like it's tipped back a lot, you can just place something thin underneath your head for the time being. You have to move it when we get to bridge. But for now, you can just have something underneath your head. And we're going to do a butterfly pose. So that's just the legs opening and closing. And the idea here is to create symmetry. So if one side is more able to move than the other, we're going to just keep that symmetry on both sides. So you're just going to keep the hands on the pelvis, breathe into the rib cage, into the diaphragm, relax the shoulder blades onto the ground, and then we'll start. So hands onto the pelvis, and you're just going to let the knees open up and close. So again, we'll do this one about 10 times, just like the heel lifts. And you want to create as much symmetry as you can. So if you feel like your pelvis is pretty shifty, then try to do a little bit less. And then you're going to reach for your block. Place your block in between your thighs, hands onto the pelvis. So this is important that we can feel how the pelvis responds to this and also how the hip flexors respond. So you're just going to let your hip flexors be quiet. It's a good thing to notice. Hip flexors are the ones that lift your leg up, your knee up. So just feel that they're not ropey. That's right where your pelvis and your leg bones meet. And then you're going to squeeze the block and relax. Squeeze and relax. Squeeze and relax. While you do this, notice if your shoulders want to help you squeeze. Notice if your hip flexors want to help you squeeze. Or even your bum. So we really just want to be thinking about squeezing those inner thighs together without anything else gripping or compensating. So the idea is that we're building stability and symmetry in the pelvis. And then relax that. Just thought about this. A foam block is a little bit nicer block to use than a wooden one for this exercise. Okay, so this is where you can use a strap, or like a yoga strap, or you can use a tie, or a TheraBand works great. Basically anything that you can tie around your thighs. So I'm just going to double back this. So I'm tightening it up so that my knees, I'm still able to keep my knees hip width apart. So my knees are about the same width as my hips. And then same idea, pelvis is stable, hip flexors relaxed. I'm going to press out into the strap and relax. Press out and relax. Press out and relax. Notice if your pelvis shifts or your shoulders get active or your jaw, and just keep going. If you get tense anywhere else, take a break and relax that out as much as you can, and then start again. And once you've done 10, you're just going to move your strap off to the side. If you have anything underneath your head, you want to make sure that you move that away so that your head is flat on the ground. And I just like to set my shoulder blades so they're flat on the ground, feet, knees still hip width apart, and we're going to come up into bridge. So you're going to press your hips up, and then we're going to lift and lower. So I'm just going to keep my hands here so you can see how the rib cage and pelvis are still moving together. And I'm thinking about moving from the bum, as though I could move right from this gluteal fold. So I'm just lifting and lowering, and still trying to keep relaxed through the upper body and shoulders. So I'm not clenching or bracing through my upper body. I'm still really relaxed and open through the front, and just lifting and lowering. And then I'm going to lift up as high as I can and just hold here. So I want to feel like I'm moving from the bum. And then lower down. And then lift up as high as I can and hold. And lower down. Just a bit. So we're not lowering all the way to the ground. Just an inch or two. Okay, and to keep the feet and ankles mobile, I'm going to lift up, stay connected through this rib cage and pelvis connection, and then I'm going to lift the heels. Heels are lifted, and I'm going to lift and lower the heels while the bum is still nice and high, and the shoulders and neck and jaw are relaxed. So if you're worried about laying on your back when you're pregnant, as long as you feel okay. So if you feel like you're getting dizzy or out of breath, then I would absolutely recommend coming up. Most pregnant women are okay on their backs for a short period of time. I wouldn't recommend sleeping 8 hours on your back, but a couple of minutes to strengthen the legs and pelvis and bring symmetry is a-okay. And then we're going to lower back down and then come on up just for a moment. So just make sure we've got everything. So the last pose is going to be two poses: legs up the wall and the pelvic floor breath. So we're going to go over pelvic floor breath to start before we get into legs up the wall. So if you have a pillow or a blanket, you can use that, or you can just sit back on the heels or comfortably cross-legged. So pelvic floor breath is really important in keeping the muscles of the pelvic floor, or allowing the muscles of the pelvic floor to relax and then to contract. So the relaxation phase is really what we want to focus on at this point, the softening and relaxing, and then a slight contraction on the exhale. So that contraction that I'll talk about in a moment is about 2% of a Kegel. So if you think about a Kegel as like 100% effort, this pelvic floor breath is about a 5% effort. Okay, so if it helps to get yourself comfortable in your seated position, You could even do this in a resting child's pose. So with your forehead down and just laying down like that. It's good to practice in lots of different ways. Okay, so get yourself situated. Soften your shoulders, soften your jaw. Let your breath fill your lungs and expand your lungs. And then we're going to think about taking the breath into the pelvic floor. So as you breathe, the inhale is going to relax the pelvic floor. And the exhale, you're going to think about drawing it up. So that area from sitting bone to sitting bone, and then pubic symphysis to tailbone. This is the area of the pelvic floor. So it's like a diamond shape. So when I say contract, I'm thinking of right from the center of the diamond shape, like from the vagina, you're going to pull in and up towards like the center of your body. Okay, so you inhale to relax and expand, and you exhale to lift and contract gently. Inhale, relax and expand. Exhale, contract gently. And you can just keep this visual. I like to think of a balloon blowing up and then deflating slightly and then blowing up. Or a really lovely one, another lovely one is a jellyfish. So how a jellyfish expands and then it gathers itself all up and then it expands again. So it's like an upside down jellyfish. This expansion, contraction with the breath. Okay, so this breath is a magnificent breath for pregnant women to balance out the pelvic floor, to bring awareness, to bring softening, which is really what we want to nurture at this point. It's good for pelvic pain. It's good for if you have problems with leaking. Basically, we're trying to start to retrain the pelvic floor to function optimally. So functioning optimally is the ability to relax and contract, and the ability to coordinate those two movements. So if you don't get it right away, don't fret. It is something that requires practice, and if you have any questions, please feel free to email me, smallplanetmama@gmail.com with any questions. Okay, so with that pelvic floor breath in mind, we're going to move on to the wall, the legs up the wall. So if you have hard floors, like hardwood floors, you can put a blanket underneath you, underneath your head and your pelvis, so that, I'm just going to do that right now, so that when you want to come out of it, you can just push yourself away from the wall, and it makes it a lot easier to get in and out, especially if you are quite pregnant. If you are on a carpet, it is a little bit more difficult to come out of this pose, but the blanket makes it a little bit easier. So I'm just going to fold up this nice thick blanket, and I'm going to place it close to the wall, and then to get in, I'm just going to come to beside the wall, and then lift my legs as I lower down. And then just place my legs up on my fake wall. All right, so from here, with your legs resting, this is awesome. I want you to think about that pelvic floor breath that we just did. So you're going to take all your attention to your breath and to your pelvic floor. You're going to inhale and expand, and then exhale and contract. Inhale, expand, exhale, contract. Now, a really beautiful addition to this practice is to just feel these leg bones getting heavier. So they're softening or sinking down into the joints of the pelvis. So they're just getting really heavy. I would like to have my legs like this, but I have studs behind me, so I just have my legs a bit wonky. But you're just going to let your leg bones sink down into your pelvis so that they're becoming really heavy. And this, combined with the pelvic floor breath, is a really nice exploration of that breath, and of also how the leg bones can sink down and relax. And this helps to relieve some pelvic pain as well. Right, so you can stay in this position for as long as you feel comfortable. And that is it for our practice today. So if you have any questions, again, please feel free to email me through my website, jenvanderland.com, or my email, smallplanetmama@gmail.com. And I look forward to any questions, and thanks so much. See you next time.